shareholding, they want to know Brent's shareholding, ne? So they said we must use C and D. So if I look at C, let's quickly read what they say. Based on Mike's advice, the directors decided to issue additional shares to existing shareholders. By the way, that is benefits of rights issue. Ne? That they issue shares to people who already own shares. At 21 Rand per share, shareholders were allowed to purchase. Now look at this. They can buy 10 shares for every 40 shares they own. Okay? So there's a, what do you call it, a prerequisite. All shareholders exercised this right, meaning every single shareholder did it. Okay? So now, they say here, this is now the total shares that was in issue, ne? The 1st of March. Then we repurchased, and then this is the new shares that were issued according to this. Right. So now they give me Brent. Brent Flower and Karina Moss are shareholders in the company, but not directors. None of their shares were repurchased. Okay? So nothing changed except the new shares that they bought. Right. So now, can you see, if I look at Brent, his percentage shareholding was 23.1 on the beginning of the year. What is it the end of the year? Now, if you look at this, can you see, if I can calculate, ne, how many shares he bought, ne, extra, I can calculate his percentage of the 1.325 because that's his shareholding now. Okay, so now let's quickly think. He had 300,000 shares. For every 40 shares, he can buy 10. Does that make sense?
No.
So if I say the 300,000, I want to see how many shares he's got that he can buy 10 for. Okay. So, what do I get? 75,000, is that the final sum? Hmm? What don't you get? Okay, let me go through it slow again. They say that he can buy 10 shares for every 40 shares that he owned. So I want to know how many 40 shares does he own. So if I divide the 300 with 40, I can see, oh, he's got 10 shares. And for that 10 shares, he can buy 10 each, which would be 100. You get what I'm saying? So let's say, for instance, he owned 400 shares. Ne? If I divide that by 40, it means he's got 10 40s. And for that 10 40s, he can each buy 10. So in other words, let's do this again. If he owns 40 shares, how many shares can he buy? 10. If he owns 80 shares, how many shares can he buy?
20.
If he buys 120 shares, how many shares can he buy?
20.
Okay, now that calculation, 120 shares, ne? 120 shares, how did you get to 30? You took the 120, you divided it by 40, you see that gives you 3. And for that 3 batches of 40, you can buy 10 each. So in other words, you want to calculate here by dividing 40 is how many batches of 40 do you have? Does that make sense? So how many batches of 40 does this person have? And then for each of those batches, he can buy 10 shares. You guys sharp? Now I want to know what's his majority shareholding. So he had 300 and now he bought an extra 75. Does that make sense? And then what's the total in issue? 1325 times 100. If I look at the memo, that's exactly what they have here. Can you see? Okay. Now, can you guys see that that 75 that they actually give separate marks? So it's safer to show it like this than to immediately show 375. Why? Because if you calculated the 75 wrong, you can still get 1, 2, 3. You guys get it? Okay. So let's do the next one. So, what's the percentage he's got now? 28%, no? 28.3. Okay, so it increased. Now they say, Brent and Karina decided that they would combine their votes. At the AGM. Why would they do that? Because if they combine their shareholding, they are together the majority. Okay. So now they say, explain one possible reason, and that's your reason. If they combine the 28 and the 26, they have more than 50%, which makes them together a majority shareholding. Let's quickly see how they say. Combining their shares gives them a majority of, because you have to have figures, right? So can you see the figures is a bagel, because we as markers need to refer to that one there, ne? Okay, so, and the fact of majority is 2 ticks. 3. Can you see you don't have to say 54%, you can just show also that one plus hers. Also marks.
Now, if this is happened, how would their dividends be shared?
No, they still get their dividends according to the amount of shares they've got. But the thing now is about the voting. It's about, because what does the majority shareholder have? He's got the power to swing the vote in his favor. And what do they vote about? They will vote about the CEO. They can vote the CEO off. They can vote, they have to vote about which company, which external auditing firm, because they are partnerships, which one of them they can, if they're going to keep the existing one or if they're going to change, which is big. They're also going to vote in the final dividends. And then any other decision, big decisions, like, oh, we want to open up another branch in KwaZulu-Natal. The shareholders vote on that. Anything that's got to do, that's big decisions in the we want to develop a new product. No? I'm quite sure they can vote on that also. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they can vote on that. But I know for sure they vote CEO, external auditor, final dividends. So now, you and me are colluding. We are now putting our strength together. We decide before the time. Oh, we do not like the CEO. We want to change him. So now, when the votes are asked, I vote against the CEO, I vote that he should be removed, and you also. So with me and your votes together, he's out.
So how would, like, everyone else know that they have elaborated the
They won't. Because it's you and me on a phone call.
Oh, it's not like a...
It's not like a, no, this is what we call colluding. And that's why it's very dangerous what they did here. Because the fact is, if the CFO did his homework, in giving this opportunity, where they can buy, where is that opportunity? By giving existing shareholders this opportunity. He should have taken into account that they can collude. That's what he was supposed to do. Maybe it's something he wanted. What you guys should also be awake for is with this, because they said that they can buy 10 shares for every 40, it might also be that they get a vote for every 10. They can write that into their MOI, that voters don't get votes per share, they get it for every 10 shares a vote, or every 50 shares a vote. They can write in things like that. Yeah. It then makes it that if you have 100 shares, you only got 10 votes, not 100 votes.
But you're still
majority shareholder. Yeah. I think it just makes the votes more manageable.
okay.
Because then you don't have to count 100 votes, you can just count 10.
Okay.
I think that's what happens. And also what happens is you can't buy one share, you have to buy a minimum of 10 shares, for instance. Yeah, which is also good for their capital. Okay. So, let's go on. Next one. So now they ask me, as an existing shareholder, so you are not Brent or Karina, you are you. Explain why you would be concerned about the strategy of Brent and Karina. Give 2 points. Because they can swing the vote. They are controlling the vote. So let's quickly see the things they say. But my first concern is that they are now in control, actually. That my vote doesn't count at all. It's not illegal. No. It's unethical, I would say. I think it borders on being unethical.
But it depends on what the motive is.
Yeah. No, the thing is, I think it happens all the time. But I don't think it's seen as ethical. Because by doing that, you are basically making everybody else's. So why would I want to go and vote?
Yeah,
because now the thing is, it's not public knowledge. I hear it through the grapevine. See, if Mary is, for instance, the majority shareholder, it's public knowledge. We know she's the majority shareholder. So I'm not even going to go vote, because what does my vote count? Okay? But if 2 people are colliding, can you see 3 or 4 can also collide?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be only 2. And they decide, because now they are swinging the vote. Can you see? It's not an ethical thing to do. Okay, so basically, anything could have happened. So what is it? Whether they will use their powers to the benefit of the company, because they are now in a unique position. Whether they want to gain financially through high directors' fees in future, their past experience in directing, what does it have to do with directors? Because they are not directors. Let's just quickly go back. Okay, let's quickly look here. They are not directors. But now, because they're having so many shares, they could maybe get a position as a non-executive. So that's maybe what they go on here. Do they really understand what a majority shareholder should do and what their powers are? Because it could be you and me. What do we know about companies and the running of companies? You get what I'm saying? So now I don't like this director, so I vote him off. But you don't know what that person is actually bringing to the table, because you are just not liking the way he talks. But now you have the power to get him off. Can you see how dangerous it is if you don't have knowledge of the internal workings of a company? Okay? And so. You can go on. I can tell you, if I say here that they would have too much power, that would get 2 marks. And by doing that, my vote doesn't count for anything. I'm quite sure you'll get at least 1 tick for that. And if you don't, then you don't, but at least you wrote something. Okay, next one. Refer to A, B, and C, not D. Mike received, so who's Mike? Mike is the CFO. Received an offer for the post of CFO at another company. Can you see this guy is quite popular? Why? Because he's a good CFO. Okay? At Premier Limited at a much better remuneration package. Remuneration is the word for your salary. So a remuneration package would be his salary, his bonus, his performance packet, whatever, than the current one at Jesse. The directors at Jesse met and proposed that they offer him a better package than Premier, because they don't want to lose him, because just look what he did. Explain 3 points relating to the financial results of the company besides those mentioned above. Meaning you can't do profitability, you can't do dividends, you can't do risk and gearing. Okay. So now, name 3, that justifies his improved package. Now let's quickly go look. Which ones didn't we highlight? Okay, solvency. I'm not going to quote solvency because it went down. I'm going to quote earnings per share. I'm going to quote ROSI. I'm going to quote NAV. And let's see if the market price, I'm going to quote the market price. So let's quickly look. What did they quote? Thank you. So, can you see? You can actually also quote the markup. So, can you see 3 points? So, this is the ones you can't quote, right? So now let's look. It's 1 point for the financial indicator, so that's already 3 points. Okay? Then for the evidence and explanation. So in other words, if you show the trend and the figures, it's 2 ticks each. So you can get 9 out of 9 because you're literally just quoting. So can you see? Markup, EPS, ROSI, solvency, NAV, market value. Can you see it's the ones I said? And what do you say? It increased from this to this. It increased from this to this. It increased from this to this. You see? Now, if you look at the last one here, this is other ones, right? But you don't need to know these ones. I think these ones is easy enough. Okay, everybody happy?